Hey, hello YouTube, Trademark Kill here, and today we have another RWBY Thoughts. This is for Volume 4, Chapter 2. Now, this episode was really interesting. I was correct on the time. I said between 14 and 15 minutes, and I am in that zone, so you can thank me later for not saving you any time at all. Huh? Wink, wink. But I just want to say that I had a conversation with Crosby. As you know, he has been in many of my videos prior when we lived near each other back in Florida. And he actually brought up a really good quote that explains basically the Weiss segment of this, and we're just basically start with the entirety of the Weiss segment of this episode, because it's so true. Is that in a quote that he said is, Weiss's spot left little questions but many details, and that's pretty much exactly what happened. Is that, and as I said in my predictions video, we got a good setup, we got good motivation, or at least a hint of the motivation she needs to move forward in her character development. The first thing we hear in the video is Whitley, aka Weiss's little brother, and he seems like a pretty respectable type. I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to eventually become at least Satan incarnate, but he seems pretty respectable, and that's kind of the biggest question mark we really have in this situation. Because like he seems respectable, you know, he doesn't like Winter, but he respects her resolve and her strength. So he seems like the kind of level-headed person. Although you know, if little kids die to bad people, because I mean, you need character motivation, right? It wouldn't be a bad thing to have a little like 10-year-old kid get his head chopped off, I guess. I'm not speculating anything. Just saying. But the big reveal of the Weiss segment of this is the fact that the person we see, I said that was a Atlas general in the intro, was actually Ironwood. And Ironwood, holy crap, looks like he's seen some shit. He's much more rugged. His beard's grown out a little bit. His hair is grown out, but he has kind of his full, like a much more detailed military outfit for the Atlas military. So he does look a little bit, he looks like he's seen some shit, but he's arguing with Jax or Jacques, or however you want to say his name. There's like, it's a pretty multi-sayable name. That was a terrible explanation, but this person he was arguing with is I'm going to call him Jax or Jacques, but it's going to interchange, you guys, don't worry. And Jacques is Weiss's father. But basically, from the ending of Volume 3 to the beginning of where we are now, is that Atlas has put an embargo on all the other nations to forbid the Schnee Dust Company from importing their dust and their products over to other kingdoms, just in case the other kingdoms decide to declare war. Now, this is a way to basically, to protect yourselves, you stop arming your allies, so it's kind of like you shoot yourself in the foot. But instead of worrying about that, what Mr. Schnee or Jacques or Leroy Jenkins is upset about is that he's lost millions on not being able to import his products across to the other nations. That's what he's worried about. And it's basically just showing how much that the Weiss dynasty or the Schnee dynasty cares about society. It's basically they want profit over society, and even to the point where he's going to perform a benefit concert or hold a benefit concert in which he's going to have Weiss perform and sing at, because he feels like it would be a good thing to show that the Schnee Dust Company or the Schnee family are so strong, and you know you were there you're fighting for another kingdom and blah. He cares more about his profits and his family's image more than he has shown care for the actual ramifications of the fall of Beacon. And he uses that to justify, oh, the fall of Beacon has affected everyone, including myself, because I've lost money and nothing else. So he's kind of a dick. So Weiss agrees to perform at this benefit concert, and she's reluctant, and I'm pretty sure this is going to be kind of our hinting towards her rebellion, or she's just going to lead into more information being held or learned about what the thing of, like, what the purpose of this benefit concert is going to be, and it's going to cause her to rebel. This is the motivation, or at least the the MacGuffin to cause the rebellion, in a sense. I'm probably using the word MacGuffin wrong, and I went to film school, so I should know what that word means. But we end basically all the Weiss stuff with her coming out of her father's study and meeting and seeing Klein, who gives her coffee. And let me tell you, all right, listen, I won't be surprised if in Volume 10 we have Salem down on her knees and Ruby's readying the final chop to take Salem's head off, and all of a sudden we hear someone yell, and Klein comes and stabs Salem in the heart, saying thank you for your service. And then all we know is, it's Klein! It's been Klein the whole time! Klein the whole time. Klein the whole time. My parents don't love me. But thanks to my friend Cross, again, bringing him up again, being a Tumblr troll, he has actually found on Tumblr that apparently Klein Sebian means seven little, or little seven in German. Or seven, small seven in German. And he's basically, because he can change attitude or his eyes indicate a certain emotion, he's basically the true incarnate of the seven dwarfs. They didn't want to model seven different characters just to make the seven. It makes sense and it works. It was quite an entertaining thing, and Klein's going to be the final bad guy of the entire RWBY series. He is going to ascend the throne of God, because fuck us. So that's basically it for all of Weiss. There's not too much, as I said. There's been a lot more details than there are questions. So it was actually a really good setup, a beautiful setup, and I can't wait for more. Although this does kind of throw my theory that we're going to jump to Blake and Yang in the next episode. Although we might have something a little bit more interesting coming, but that's going to involve RWBY. So I'm going to just let you guys hear some of my thoughts on that. So we meet up with Team RWBY back on the road to the next town, which is called Shion. But we we start at least with a nightmare sequence, at least, of RWBY. And it's actually well written. They actually are, at least RWBY is, as far as we know, and Jean is hugely affected by Pyrrha's death and the fall of Beacon, to the point where some people have said that it's PTSD-like. And the fact that RWBY's waking up due to nightmares of hearing Pyrrha's voice, and just really almost dark, not even almost, is actual dark kind of underlining themes of what's going on in the heads of our current team. And what this means is that we're going to have very unpredictable episodes coming up, especially not just in this volume, but especially going forward. Once more things start happening and once more things develop, we're going to have a very, very scary kind of decision making that's going to happen, and very illogical moves made by our main character, especially Jean and RWBY, who are going to be kind of triggered by, vengeance coming up. And it's going to be very interesting to see how this kind of PTSD, especially when you compare it to if there's going to be kind of the sleep deprivation stuff and how that's going to affect them. It's going to be pretty interesting, but as I said, there's actually a little bit to talk about going forward here. So we start with Team Ranger on the road to Shion, and as they're looking at the map, and there's actually really funny kind of back and forth that happens. They are not skimming on the jokes, but they're also not forcing the jokes, which is a really good thing to note. Everything seems kind of natural. But on the road, they actually, they're looking at the map and they look up, and there is the town of Shion, or the village of Shion, completely destroyed and burning. Now, they do find a injured, dying huntsman who is voiced by Kagi Films, or Alejandro Saab, if you follow him on YouTube or Twitch or Twitter or anything like that. This is his cameo voicing this dying huntsman. And they find that it wasn't Grimm that started the raid on the village, it was bandits. And then with the panic that the bandits brought to the village, that brought the Grimm in. Now, the huntsman dies as they're trying to figure out how to get him to help, and this is honestly, if you look, I want to go back if you've seen this and rewatch Ren, right? this is possibly some of the most emotion we've seen ever out of Ren. Like, he is deeply affected by this, it looks like. Like, he loses a lot. Like, he's very out of character here. So I have a feeling that this is like his nightmare. Like, this is like he sees this and thinks back to his childhood when his village got destroyed. His and Nora's village got destroyed. Right? He does not take this very well, it seems. But one thing him and Nora find is I don't know if it's a symbol. I couldn't find anything, and I researched this a lot between all the RWBY symbols. I couldn't find a symbol that matched this all that well. And it also, to me, in a sense, looks like it could also be like a Grimm footprint, right? But here's the issue. If this is a Grimm footprint, Jesus, hey, this is a big motherfucker. Like, this is a big Grimm. This, like this footprint is the size of, like, Ren's, like, upper body to his head. Like, this is a big motherfucker. And if this is a Grimm footprint, run. Just run. But it could also be a symbol, and it could also be, especially if it could relate to the Cinder or Salem's, like, group, it could be that, because if you look in the intro, the intro opening cinematic, basically, of the series for Volume 4, they see the guy with the weird power, whose name is Tyrion, fighting RWBY in what looks to be a burned down village, or a burning village. Not saying this is going to be this fight's going to be in this area or this village, but we could be getting close to that fight, especially since a lot of these opening cinematics that for RWBY, all the action that's in it, that's featured in episodes, happens within the first few, I'd say 5 to 6 episodes of the series. So we could be looking at that fight fairly soon. And here's the interesting note. Since Volume 2 and 3 in Episode 4 both had pretty major fights in them. And now I'm not sure, like, I know Volume 3 had a bunch of, like, fights in them, but in Episode 4, they both had fights that meant something. In Volume 2, it was the mech fight. In Volume 3, it was the Team Coffee versus Team Crime fight. So we could be seeing that within the next 2 or 3 episodes, which would put back my kind of Blake and Yang theories. But the thing about this is also kind of fits, because if you think about it, if they have this fight early, say Ren gets critically wounded, not fatally wounded, critically wounded, that forces them to seek shelter for a few days in another village or somewhere that they could rely on and bunker down, and gives us time and gives us a opening to go explore more Weiss, Blake, and Yang, more of their backstory while our main group heals up. It would be kind of, I don't want to say forced, it would be artificial at best, I guess, but it would bring a good opening to have that happen and bring that possibility and help us explore without spreading around the story too much. So I really do think that we might be seeing Tyrion soon, to fight with RWBY and Tyrion. If Tyrion dies, I don't think he will die to RWBY. I think that it's possible that he fails, he flees, and either Salem kills him or Salem uses him as a victim to experiments, and we see him later as some mutated freak that's like a crossbred human and Grimm. I don't see him dying to RWBY, although it would be kind of cool to see him kind of pop like that. Especially if RWBY goes Silver Eyes and destroys him, because he mentions like Cinder or something like that. He's like, you know Cinder, you die, and then RWBY just obliterates him. But although I don't think they're going to put that much emphasis, I don't want to say emphasis, but responsibility on RWBY as a whole. I think they want to keep her relatively innocent so that when she does get a legitimate kill, it could really mean something. Because to this, other than Grimm, I don't think she's directly from like her blade has killed anyone. I mean, I know she's knocked a bunch of people off the train in Volume 2, but like stabbing someone in the chest with your scythe would have a lot more of a mental impact on you than, oh, I knocked someone down a cliff and they died, especially in the heat of that type of fight. So I think I don't know if she would kill Tyrion, but I do think there's going to be some interaction when the name of Cinder is brought up. But to close it down, we have one last kind of thing to talk about, and that is the PTSD / effects on Jean, because we see it in the closing segments of the episode where Jean is awake. I don't know if it was his turn to keep watch and he was doing this, or if he was just awake in the middle of the night and did this. But apparently, on his scroll, he has a video of Pyrrha who's going over basic instructions on how to practice his fighting form. And this is something he does, I'm guessing every night. It's something that means a lot to him. And obviously, like, it's so heartbreaking. It's a field trip through and through. To hear what Pyrrha's like, Pyrrha, you can guess that Pyrrha's trying to muster up the courage to say "I love you," or in some sort. But all she can say is, "You mean it's an honor to be in your life," and stuff like that. And it's so heartbreaking because then you have to think about the fact that this is in his his training thing, his training. So every time he wants to train, not only does he have to hear her voice, but he hears this over and over again. So imagine what's on his mind at any given point. And it's tragic. It's beautiful, but it's a beautiful tragedy. But we do have some developments on his fighting style, which is either he's throwing really hard sword strikes or he's throwing his aura like a motherfucker, because every time he just slashes with his sword, just a huge wave comes off the sword. Now, I don't think this is a semblance. I think this is possibly, like, as we heard in Volume 1, he has a lot of aura, and this is him learning his aura and learning how to control his aura, and he's using his sword as kind of a rifle, in a sense, to direct his aura into strikes. So that's going to give him extra range in fights. So that's awesome to see him developing as a character. We still don't know for sure if it's his semblance or not, or even what his semblance is. It's possible that his semblance is still the power of the voice, and it's more like a buff to his allies. So we're not sure, but it's awesome. This entire ending scene is awesome, but it also gets some seeds planted to have the RWBY and Jean ship that everyone seems to have wanted at some point or another. But that's really it. As I said, there's a lot of questions answered and details given, not too much to speculate on. And as always, I'll try to do a speculation video in the middle of the week before Volume 4, Chapter 3 comes out next Saturday. But as always, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, Tremor Kills out. Peace.